Well, hello everybody. What are we doing, Carolyn?
I mostly have conference brain at this point.
Yeah, I have conference brain. We are at Romance Writers of America 2016, and we are right here where you can't see. We're looking out a window right into the San Diego Marina.
It's pretty.
So, it is gorgeous.
Very pretty.
We're in Carolyn's room. So how's your conference been?
Well, I have now been here a week.
Oh,
because
my God.
the board comes in early.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been here for a week. And you'll have to forgive me for being perhaps less than articulate. So the board met Sunday and Monday.
Mm-hmm.
There were some long days, but we did get our day of sort of decompression on Tuesday. We did not have to meet Tuesday, which was very nice. We got lots of important stuff done. Then Wednesday, conference madness began. I will say my impression of the conference has been that, first of all, you come here to this beautiful hotel. We are at the San Diego Marina Marriott, and it is spectacular space.
It's gorgeous.
When the board came in November to see the hotel space, we knew then that it was going to be fantastic. Because I said that at the local meeting.
Mm-hmm. You said it was going to be fantastic.
And at that time, the second half of the hotel where most of our meetings are, and our meeting space was under construction, and it is just plugs everywhere.
Oh wow!
Places to sit. You can have all kinds of. It was just so great, and the hotel staff has been fantastic, and coffee lines move pretty fast.
They do. The elevators are not too bad.
Yeah.
There's sometimes a little bit of a line, but it moves really quickly.
Yeah.
It's not like the elevators, get stuck at some floor and never come back down,
Yes.
as they have in other places.
Yes. So people come and it's like, and when you're walking the meeting space, they right onto the bay.
Yeah.
And so ridiculous. I think everyone's in a good mood because it's so pretty.
Well,
the weather's fantastic.
The weather's perfect. It's 72 degrees out there with a cool breeze. So if you want to be warm, you can be in the sun. And the other thing that everybody's saying is that it's just such a mellow feeling conference.
It is.
Like everybody's kind of in a good mood. I'm not sensing the high stress tension that goes along with the New York conferences.
Well, and so a few things that I've heard. I was jealous of the people who went over to Coronado got a tour of the Navy SEAL
My friend Lisa
installation there. Yeah, boy, I'd love to hear about that. That sounds like it was really
she
interesting.
Really enjoyed it.
And some great workshops, but lots of just great information. Just when you see somebody in the hallway and you meet and stuff. And
what's been some of the good information that just springs to mind? Like, what's a piece of information you're taking away?
Now you're asking me a hard question. Not only late in the day.
I'll say one then.
Okay, you go first.
I was in a workshop, and it was Sylvia Day said really, really bluntly, and I really liked this. She said, what sells books is word of mouth. Sylvia Day has her face plastered all over, seriously, the outside of the building and on the inside corridors. And she was really frank, and she said, I'm spending a lot of money at this conference for marketing, and that's not really going to work. What works is word of mouth. You need to get the word out to readers about your books, and that's what sells. And I liked being reminded of that. And she was like, get your book up on NetGalley, get the reviews, get people talking about it. I forget to do. I've actually never done NetGalley. I have NetGalley coming up this month for my next book, which comes out in August. But it was such a simple thing, such a simple reminder.
Well, in terms of marketing, there's just no substitute for buzz.
Buzz, yeah.
And there's some things. Some of it just happens organically.
Mm-hmm.
People start reading or hearing about your book. They see it on Facebook or Twitter. People mention it. Among the book reading sites, and the people
And the more the title comes up, the more you see the cover.
Yeah, and then there's things you can do to support that. Once people are kind of talking about it, hopefully if you're reposting content on on Facebook or retweeting things on Twitter, But you can do things to support that once there's some buzz, because at that point it becomes actually not a bad idea to do a Facebook campaign
Right.
with a goal not of sales, but a goal of having lots of people see your book and your ad. I mean, obviously it can go to, you know, a page where people can buy your book, but if they're hearing that buzz and they're saying, oh, and I just, you know, I'm seeing an ad for it, or maybe a boosted post on it, I think
That book
that can
pops
be
up again. There it is again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And and I gave a workshop today with Jessica Scott and Chantel Madison
On Facebook
sort
ads,
of
right?
on Facebook ads. It was really Facebook 101, and sort of the design of the course was really here's like the basic level of things you need to know, and if you come away feeling that your head may explode, then you understand that you need to research all of this. It's not like come away from this, you know, hour of talking about Facebook ads thinking, and now I can do it.
Well,
now you know stuff to look at.
Let me say that with Facebook ads, I sat down to learn them, probably a year and a half ago or a year ago, and I was confused. So I walked away and I thought, well, maybe I'll go try it again. So I went back to the Power Editor and tried it again. And I tried it 3 or 4 times, sitting down at the computer thinking, I am an intelligent woman. I know how to do tech stuff. I know how to do this, and I can't figure it out. And I kept, so every single step of the way I would Google and talk to people. And it's not easy, but it's doable. So I think what I'm saying is if people are frustrated by the first time they look at doing a Facebook ad, be assured that all of us felt that way the first time we looked at running them.
I don't know if you were at the workshop, but one of the things that I thought was really interesting is I showed couple of the slides were, like you have to A/B test your images.
I love A/B testing.
And
which is split testing for those of you listening.
Yes.
You run a picture and then run a different picture, see what gets most hits.
Yeah, so I had an ad that I was not using the cover of the book because it's actually one of my beliefs that it's not always the cover of your book that should be in an ad. Maybe, but not always.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, I had an image that certainly conveyed the book, but was not the cover of the book. Partly because it was done in the days when Facebook was still doing the 20% rule, and the book I was trying to advertise was an anthology that had
all
like
the words.
4 author names, and it's just like,
right.
I don't have time to wait for 3 days for Facebook to go, oh, right, it's a book cover. And by that time, the opportunity's gone when you have a new release. So I did a split test, an image. It was a historical couple in an embrace. And in one version, it's more of a close-up of their face, and you can see it's like super, oh, I love you, honey, expression. And I really loved that one. I thought, this is going to be great. But I thought, well, okay, I'm going to do another version of this. And it was a more pulled-out version of it where you could see that he had his hand on her back. So I A/B tested that, same exact copy. And the version with the hand, smoked it. So we're showing this, which one do you think was the winner? And every single person in that room raised their hand for the close-up image. They were all wrong, just like I was, because I thought, I'm doing this other image just in case, because, okay, that's kind of neat with his hand there. And I also thought that that first image would be the one, and it wasn't.
That is exactly what I found about Facebook ads, is when I split test something, no matter what I think is going to be the obvious click, I'm always wrong. And what that means to me is that without split testing, I would be doing it poorly or not as well as I
and you'd come away thinking
could.
It's too expensive or it's not working, or
I was split testing actually I was doing the copy on some of my erotica stuff, and I threw the word feminist in there just to see what would happen. I was interested in what would happen, and I assumed that it would get no clicks. It got massively more clicks because it said feminist, smart, dirty, hot, or something like that. I didn't expect that.
Do you have a sense yet of what it did for sales? Was it?
I was pushing a free.
Okay.
I was pushing a free, and it did definitely boost the downloads, and so yeah, that was great. I wasn't trying too hard with that one. I was just kind of more curious because that name is almost dead.
I have a sub theory that sometimes when you're not overtly trying so hard, you can kind of hit the ones.
Yes.
And you have to try both, but so often, oh, I better have a second image in this ad set. I
Right,
kind of like
right.
it with this hand there. Let's put that in there. And it's like, holy cow. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, I just went and turned off every ad because
I love
without,
that. Because
without the hand.
that's amazing. Okay, so what else have you done that's been fabulous?
Well, since I'm on the board, I have
Yeah.
the absolute wonderful job of, there's a Rita Golden Heart, which is our Golden Heart's a contest for unpublished authors, and the Rita is our contest for published authors.
It's like the
and
Oscars.
And there's a reception where the finalists all get, a certificate. When we call off their name, they get a certificate, and you get your picture taken with whichever board member,
Oh.
And it is so fun.
And this was
to
last
do that.
night?
It was yesterday afternoon, yes, and it was so fun.
Oh.
The only thing more fun is when you get to call the finalists.
That's amazing.
It is really awesome. So actually, I think right now we're pre-Ritas, so I would say that right now that's like been the highlight.
That's awesome. I've had a lot of highlights. One of them was blowing off everything and going down to Ben and Jerry's in Seaport Village and getting 2 scoops and walking along the water in the sunshine and smiling at people. And then we just got out of Hamilton sing along. I believe we haven't actually asked the organizers of this yet if we can do this, but hopefully it's the first annual. Because it was amazing. We did the first half of Hamilton. So next year we would naturally have to do the second half. And people took turns. We had a mic. I was George Washington. Ooh. Because George Washington is my favorite role, so I actually got up on stage and sang a little bit. And apparently that's already been tweeted out to Lin-Manuel Miranda, so now I have to die. So that was great. This is not romance related, but it is romantic.
Yes. Well, that's been another thing I can say about the conferences. RWA has worked very hard on, amplifying the necessary message about diversity in our stories and diversity for we have diverse authors, and our work for getting publishers to maybe step back and take a look. And I'm speaking for myself, not RWA right now, but that's an important message. And it is getting out there.
It is. I have been hearing it. So yes, the word is getting out, and it's super exciting, and people are talking.
I can say now because the presentations have happened. Oh, so 2 things I want to talk about. One is that there's a student a PhD student at Stanford who did a study on author incomes and publishing.
She was at that diversity panel that I went to.
Excellent. So you probably heard what I think is probably her most significant finding.
I would love you to share that.
So the difference in income between white authors and authors of color is pretty significant. And that income disparity disappears in self-publishing.
So to put that really clearly, there is no income disparity in self-publishing. Like that's incredible. That's huge. But in 2009, when she did the test, white authors were in traditional world paid 4 times more, right? Wasn't that
I
it?
think that's right.
We'll look that up to make sure it's right. But
yeah, the numbers are pretty shocking, and the fact that in self-publishing that income disparity disappears says a lot about the structures that are in place that work against authors of color.
Mm-hmm.
I think I want to believe, but will not decide that it's so, but I want to believe that most people are not deliberately racist. But what they don't do is recognize how the system they have in place is inherently racist and inherently discriminatory.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is, I've had an easier time because I have not been competing against authors who are equally and probably even more talented than I am.
Yep, me too.
To the extent that there's talent there, right? Although, imposter syndrome, right? Were you at that?
Yes, we talked about imposter syndrome and how we all face it.
I want to segue.
Yeah.
2 things. Our keynote speech with Beverly Jenkins made me cry. It was awesome. She's so amazing.
I think is it online somewhere? I want to say somebody might have put it on. We'll check.
It will probably be. It'll be part of the conference tapes.
Right.
Her speech and Sherry Thomas's today.
Sherry Thomas made me
another
cry.
one that I cried again.
I love Sherry Thomas and Beverly Jenkins.
Both those speeches I will be listening to probably multiple times. Some of the most inspiring words. There are certain politicians that I think need to see both those speeches.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Put it that way. That was so great.
And in the show notes, we'll put where you can buy those if you didn't get to go to conference.
Yeah.
I think you can even buy them singly.
Yeah.
So
the other thing is I went to, Data Guy was presenting.
I didn't go to see him, and everybody's minds were blown. They loved all the data coming at them. What did you think?
Well, I think that a couple of things. I have been concerned that in the past he keeps calling his Excel spreadsheet the raw data. That's not the raw data. The raw data is in his database. His spreadsheet is not the raw data. However, he now has what I think is a really significant data set. It's got over 1 million bits of 1 million records. And that is pretty significant. So that, there's just different things you can do. When you have a really small data set, you could have just nothing but a bunch of bias. And so I was always a little worried about, is there enough information there that we aren't all like leaping to conclusions that are simply not warranted because there wasn't enough data there. So that I found interesting. I was glad to hear him say that there were certain sets of analyses that he had not done yet and would like to. So
How much of this was romance specific?
For the purposes of his presentation to us, he was mostly concentrating on romance.
Great.
Because that was his audience. And that's just because of the nature of the business. It's also the bulk of the data.
Okay, that's cool. Because romance sells.
It does. It does sell, and I think I came away with the concern that's been growing for me as I watch the kind of self-publishing thing take off and have listened to the message from traditional publishing and how they're spinning their data, as I worry that they are heavily into confirmation bias.
Well, sure.
I was at a publisher spotlight where literally this happened. They were asking, like, how many people like to read in print? And a certain number of people raised their hands. And how many people like to read in e? And, like, most of the room is raising their hands. And someone, well, who really prefers print? And it's like, and, like, it really, 25%. Really. And she looks out in the audience, oh, so, like, looks like about 50% of you really prefer print. And it's like, dude,
did you... Did you count?
What's the difference between seeing hands going up and...
Yeah.
I just was a little concerned by that, and I was concerned by a view that I understand they don't want print to go away. They're probably a little concerned because they do not compete well in the digital space. That's really clear. Data Guy's numbers show just actually how significantly they're being outsold and out-marketed. It's actually kind of stunning when you see that. And again, I have not actually seen his raw data, and I've not been able to see what queries he's running to pull it. But my sense is he's got better data and more public data than anyone so far. It's not like other studies where they just went out to Writer's Digest, which is, that's just such a biased sample.
Did you come away with anything from that you're going to put into use in your trajectory, or will any of that information make you pivot on something you're doing and do something differently?
One thing that was pretty clear is that the current price points that are selling are really in the $2.99 to $4.99 realm. And there was one remind me about trajectories. Just do this, and I'll probably hopefully remember what you said, because that was what the slope looked like.
Straight down.
Yeah. That I'm going to be thinking more about pricing. Right now, I'm pretty much in that range. Now, what he didn't have at that point, or at this point in his data, was an analysis of length of book with price.
That'd be interesting.
Which would be pretty interesting. And of course, that 99-cent bucket, well, that's there's a lot of, lengthier books in there because people are using that as a loss leader. One surprise for that in that data was that according to what he has, and I would wait for further analysis on that, but free is not as effective as a loss leader as right now as 99 cents.
Interesting.
And that's just good for me because I've done my free, and my next thing is I didn't have data for myself at the 99-cent entry point, which I'm setting myself up for now. That will be the next thing I do because I want to see how it works for me.
Great.
But the other interesting piece of his that his data was showing was that a traditionally published book will come out at when it debuts, like on sale date. It sells a fair, high amount of copies, and then it plunges almost straight down.
In what amount of time?
The week.
The week.
Pretty quickly it plunges, and then it stays at a very low level until about 6 months out. And this was pretty funny. So 6 months out, there's another spike. And he's going, and I don't really know what that spike is. And everyone in the audience is going, it's the second book. It's the author's next book.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh.
Yeah, definitely.
So he has things in his data and things he doesn't know about how the business works yet that will be just interesting for data analysis. So that traditionally published book has that one spike, but then it stays low forever. Now, then you add in, when you look at that same thing for a self-published book, it tends to doesn't spike out quite as high usually at the beginning, but the slope down is not as steep, and it stays higher for much longer.
Why is
up
that,
to 3 years?
Wow. Does he have a why, or is it just data?
That is just data, but I have a theory on why that is, and I think most authors, if you thinking about it a little bit, would, especially if they've been traditionally published, would understand why that is, which is it's front list. Once it's not front list, you're gone.
There's no marketing dollar behind it.
There's nothing.
You
There's
get marketing
nothing going
for
on.
30 days.
Exactly.
If.
If you're lucky.
Once that money, so maybe when that money drops off is when that book drops.
Well,
in traditional.
But in a traditional publisher, right? They publishing on every month.
Right.
Is probably, so you have 30 days, and then if you get 6 weeks, you're lucky. So, yeah.
Interesting.
And of course, when you are a single author and you're able to market your backlist, and he said so far it's pretty significant. So there's a very long tail for books at a much higher level. So, and again, it's been my theory all along that the publishing focus on front list is a fairly major mistake. They have let backlist lie fallow in ways that don't make sense. But I shouldn't. Don't tell anybody I said that.
We won't tell anybody that Carolyn and Rachael said that. I have a book club coming. I think it's this week on a book that came out in 2010. Oh wait, no, 2011. So that's gonna give it a bump.
Yeah. And again, some of his data is showing that older books.
Let me ask you this. One of my friends went to to that, and this is kind of, third hand now to me, that writing more than 3 or 4 books a year does not give you any advantage. But 3 to 4 is kind of the sweet spot because then you're maximizing your 90-day.
He did have data that showed that.
Okay. And he was going to put this on his site, right?
Yes, he said he would be posting that. So anyone should be able to go to authorearnings.com and see all his slides and take a look at that data. I have a couple of initial theories. about that. And I could be completely and utterly off base. I don't know. But I feel that if you have put out, excluding people who have deliberately held back books in order to do a multiple book release, if we're talking multiple books that say 60,000 words and above, and you've got 11 of them, and you wrote all 11 of them in a year, I have personal doubts about how good they could be.
I was going to say, could somebody do that?
Yes.
Holy craps.
People have done that. And I know a couple of authors who simply had huge amounts of unsold books, and that's different.
That is different. Because they may have been working on those for...
But the fact is that unless you're some kind of phenom, genius, really you would have to be genius to have
good books coming out.
I mean,
faster.
The smell factor just is really high on that 11 books that you wrote in 1 year. No, I don't even know how you maintain that pace.
I don't know how you remember your character names.
And so my working theory is that it might well become a quality factor. We've seen that happen for some of the really prolific authors of the past who have not been able to maintain. And I know with some, I believe, having read their books and gone, are you kidding me?
Well, burnout is a real thing.
And it is. Yeah. It is. I just think if you're not managing your personal writing career, so let's assume I'm completely wrong, that you really can write 11 quality books in a year. That's stunning to me, but let's just say it's true. And can you do it the next year?
Yeah. Ugh. Could your wrists keep that pace, or are you using dictation?
You'd have to be dictating.
Dad, what is your editor doing? Can your editor edit that quickly?
You'd have to hire a personal editor.
Do you want to hear? Okay, I'm going to tell you a piece of gossip, and I will not name names because I actually don't know her name, and I didn't recognize her. But I was walking past somebody, and she was obviously very famous by the way everyone was kind of surrounding her. And all I heard her say was, well, some editors think that they have to edit you, but at the stage I'm at, I don't actually need that. And that's all I heard. And then I kept walking, and I thought, well, that must be nice to not need an editor to be. Writers don't do that. That's you need an editor. You need an editor. I need an editor.
I mean, I would agree that there are some editors who think they have to edit, which is fundamentally different from looking at a book and fixing what needs to be fixed.
I've never had an editor who I felt edited things just for the sake of showing work on the page. That would be awful.
I've not had that either.
Yeah.
Play Jessica picking up her. Hey, hi.
If you're in here or not, so I don't want to just barge in.
Hi, we have Jessica Scott here, who just came into the room. She had her luggage parked. So we're going to do this on-the-spot interview. Hello, Jessica.
Hello, Carolyn. All right, here goes nothing.
Tell us about yourself a little bit.
So I write contemporary military romances of active duty soldiers set at Fort Hood, and also about soldiers coming home from war and going to college.
Talk a little bit about what's your particular background?
So I'm an active duty Army officer. I teach. I corrupt the next generation of officers at various institutions. I've been in the Army for 20 years, and I'm married to a retired first sergeant. So the military is very near and dear to my heart. So
that is so awesome.
I can't write anything else. I've tried.
You were on the Facebook panel with me, and I talked about Rachel and I talked about that a little bit. So
okay,
that was pretty neat.
It was a lot of fun, and you are a dream to work with. So we can do other Facebook panels. You and Chantel and me. You are a dream. You and Chantel were a dream. Like, we sat down and we really did this in about 2 hours, and it was wonderful. So you were awesome to work with. Thank you.
Well, mutual. It's mutual. So, favorite conference experience?
Overall, ever, or this one?
This one.
Meeting Robin Bradford. Honestly,
Oh, I know.
I've been talking to her online for years, and she's just been absolutely wonderful. And we were going back and forth, and I thought for sure that I was never going to get to meet her. So we finally managed to link up with her and just sit there and talk, and it was like meeting an old friend. So it was really, really cool. Finally being able to meet people that I've talked to online that I've never been able to because other sides of the country and everything.
And Robin Bradford is a librarian. She's on Twitter as at Tuflos.
Tuflos.
Tupphlos. She's amazing on Twitter. So
She
if
is.
you don't follow her, go follow her.
She has this really good, she does this hashtag collection development. So when she's looking at building books and buying books for her library, she does the collection development hashtag. It's really cool what she does. So.
And she was RWA's Librarian of the Year. Because she deserved it.
She deserved it. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, this conference has been absolutely phenomenal. I think it was much more low-key than I've seen in the past. So the New York one's always like go, 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 and everybody's, it's insane. But this one was really relaxed in a lot of different ways. I don't know if it's just it was California or San Diego or what, but I thought that the board has done such an amazing job with making this conference more inclusive. There were chairs reserved up front to be able to move so that we could have people with disabilities being able to get up front. We did, the panels were, we had authors of color, we had diverse authors on panels with talking about the contemporary romance chat and not just talking about diversity issues. I think there's been tremendous amount of gain this year, but then there's so much more to be done, and how do we keep that change going? That's I guess what I'm worried about is how do we keep everything that was so positive this year going so that we don't just go, okay, we had our diverse moment, like now let's go back to normal.
Always a risk.
Yeah.
And I think the board and the organization is absolutely committed to this. So I have high hopes that we will continue to work on these issues and continue to improve as an organization and really get the message out there.
I hope so.
So what do you have coming out next? What's your book? Do you have a book out right now? What's the next one?
So I just put out, my latest, I haven't even had a drink yet. I just put my second new adult came out, so it's a first-person contemporary. One of my soldiers coming home from war in February is when I think it came out. And so I'm working on the third book in that series, which is giving me a lot of fits, but hopefully the juices will get flowing after RWA and I'll be able to write again. So that's going to be the next project coming up. And then after that, I have no idea what's coming next. So I will figure it out, hopefully. My muse quits on me periodically from like September to November. So I go through a brief panic every year. So hopefully maybe I can forestall that this year.
What's the one out right now called?
The one out right now is Break My Fall. So it's got some really sexy arm tattoos on the cover. I was just like, it's going on the cover. I like that.
We can find that and slot it into the podcast so it shows up. Because we do a YouTube version of it too, so we can get the cover up there for people to look at.
Very cool.
So that'll be awesome. Talk a little bit about your marketing theories.
So marketing is it's like I'm not a marketing expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I've been obsessed playing one on Facebook for the last year. I think you have to be consistent in keeping your book visible to people. If you're going to use Facebook ads, I do believe it's the most powerful advertising platform out there. And I think if you're going to do that, you have to be able to build that audience. It's a powerful tool. If the publishers would pay attention, they like to say that, you put a person of color on the book cover, it's not going to sell. Well, we can find those people that are going to buy those books, and we can put those books in front of people who are going to read good books, full stop, and we can reach beyond the traditional marketing limitations of bookstore shelf space.
So true.
With Facebook ads. And so you can take Farrah Rashan's books and you can put them in front of Jill Shallis's audience. You can put them in front of Kristen Higgins' audience. And guess what? People are going to read those books. It's amazing what happens when you just give people the opportunity to read books that are good books. Yes. And so I really do believe that Facebook ads are a great tool that publishers can use and independent authors can also use to really grow their audiences. It's a long game. It's not, you're not going to wake up tomorrow and be EL or Sylvia, as much as any of us would like that. But it's a long game, and if you are consistent in your advertising and you're consistent in your branding and you're being smart about reusing everything that you've got for multiple purposes, we can take and build authors and help people reach good stories that they haven't been able to find before. So, I'm a big proponent of Facebook ads. I think it's a great tool, and I think it's a really powerful tool, especially in the moment that we're in right now with, people finally, non-people of color, finally becoming aware of the issues and challenges that diverse authors are facing.
Yes.
And being able to say, okay, here, how can I help? How do we fix this? How do we do better? And Facebook ads are a great tool to help people find good authors, period.
Because one of the issues diverse authors are facing, of course, is because Rachel and I were talking about this earlier. We know that in traditional publishing, there's an income gap.
Right.
And that means that they don't have as much money to work
Right,
with
exactly.
to market themselves.
Exactly.
And when we see that disappear in self-publishing, well, when you're first starting out, your money is going into things like covers and editing
Right.
and all that kind of stuff, and the marketing stuff sometimes has to come a little later.
Right.
And so we don't have anything like a level playing field
Right.
yet.
Well, and the other piece too is that the income gap that goes away in traditional publishing in indie publishing is not because authors of color or diverse authors are now making more. It's because white authors are now making less. Is at least how I understand it. I haven't looked at the data, but that's what I was told by someone who was at the presentation. And so, okay, the playing field's not level. How do we level that playing field and give people who are telling good stories the opportunity to get that out there? I don't know what the right answer is, but we've got awareness. We've got to keep the ball rolling because these are our friends, these are our sisters, these are our brothers. Like Beverly Jenkins said at her talk, the romance table's big enough for everybody. So how can we do better?
Well, Jessica, thank you so much for agreeing to sit down on zero
notice. I'm pretty good on the fly. I can BS pretty quick. But no, thank you for having me. I think it's great. It's a lot of fun. And thanks for being so great to work with this year and letting me crash in your room with the luggage.
Oh, you're welcome.
So, all right, cool.
Yeah, you just made our show so much cooler. That's fantastic. Okay, well, that was a very fun impromptu interview that we did not plan for, and that's cool. And we are reporting live from San Diego. Carolyn, anything else?
I am looking forward to the readers tonight.
I can't wait for the Ritas. I love the Ritas.
So exciting.
I've got my dress all hanging up and ready to put on. I just love looking at everybody looking all pretty and dolled up, and it's going to be fantastic. And then we get to go home and sleep.
Some of us do.
When do you go home?
Well, I go home tomorrow.
Okay.
Sunday. But I'm jumping right back into regular life.
Yeah.
It's a hard transition.
I like my own bed. I'm looking forward to that. But otherwise, it's just been fantastic. Thank you for doing this interview with us.
Thanks.
So, all right. We'll talk to you soon, listeners.